Chapter 1. Under the Ancient Oak, Whispers at Dusk. The sun slipped behind the low hills, painting the village in honeyed stripes of fading light. Mia paused at the edge of the field, heart fluttering, curls wild and tangled about her face. The grass tickled her bare ankles as she darted toward the old clearing, the one place that felt like a secret stitched just for her. There, at the clearing's center, stood the ancient oak, its trunk thick with stories, branches spreading like arms to cradle the dusk. Mia ran a hand along its gnarled bark and grinned. She clambered onto her favorite root, the one worn smooth by years of sitting, and rummaged in her pocket for today's treasure. A pebble, round and shiny, flecked with silver. High above, Olly the owl perched on a sturdy limb, feathers ruffling in the gentle breeze. His eyes, round and golden as lanterns, blinked slowly as he regarded his young friend. Mia tilted her chin up and called, "Olly, are you awake yet?" A soft chuckle floated down. "I'm always awake when the world is interesting, dear Mia, and dusk is when it sings." Mia beamed and held up her pebble. "Look, found it by the stream. Do you think it's a moonstone?" Olly fluttered his wings and leaned forward, feathers shimmering in the last rays. "It may be, or perhaps it's a piece of stardust that tumbled down to see what all the fuss was about." He blinked again, slow and wise. "What questions have you brought me tonight?" Mia's words tumbled out like marbles. "Why do trees creak when it gets dark? Was the village always this quiet?" And she hesitated, thinking of Mrs. Maple humming by her window that morning. And why did Mrs. Maple sing a song I've never heard before? It made me feel funny inside. Olly settled himself more comfortably, talons curling around the branch. Questions are like seeds. You never know what might grow from them. He glanced at the oak's shadow stretching across the grass. The trees creak because they remember every breeze and every story told beneath their leaves. At night, when the wind hushes and the day's bustle fades, they whisper to each other about all they've seen. Mia hugged her knees to her chest, pebble clasped tight. But why is it so quiet now? Did people forget how to talk to trees? "Not forget," Olly said gently, "but perhaps they grew busy with other things, work and worries, and the kind of silence that creeps in when laughter grows scarce." His voice softened. Once, this clearing brimmed with voices every evening. Lanterns hung from every branch, like fireflies caught in jars, and neighbors gathered for stories and songs. Mia's eyes widened. Really? Even Mrs. Thistle came? Olly's beak curved in what passed for a smile. Especially Mrs. Thistle. She'd bring her cane and tap out riddles on the roots until everyone was stumped. He hooted softly, and Mrs. Maple would bring honey rolls so sweet you could taste summer in every bite. Mia tucked a stray curl behind her ear. What about that song? The one Mrs. Maple hummed. Olly's gaze drifted far away as if he could see back through the rings of years within the oak's trunk. That lullaby. It's older than any story I know. Once, it was sung whenever times were hard, during deep winters or after storms knocked down fences and hopes alike. The tune would rise up from every cottage, weaving through the air until even the youngest cubs felt safe. Mia's voice was barely a whisper. "Can you sing it?" Before Olly could answer, a rustling from the bracken startled them both. A small brown nose poked out, followed by a round head topped with a bright blue scarf. "Hi! Hi!" Benny Bear called, his words tumbling over themselves with excitement and shyness. Mia clapped her hands. "Benny, you found us!" Benny shuffled closer, paws leaving careful prints in the soft earth. "Story?" he asked hopefully. Olly ruffled his feathers with a flourish. "Of course, Benny. Stories are best when shared." Mia scooted over on the root to make space for Benny, echoing his simple delight. "Story, story!" Benny grinned wide and plopped down beside her, scarf ends flopping over his paws. Olly regarded them both fondly. "Now that we're three, let me tell you how stories once grew here like wildflowers." His tone turned playful. "Benny, do you know why trees creak at night?" Benny blinked slowly. "Tree sleepy?" Mia giggled. "Olly says they're remembering old stories." Benny nodded solemnly. "Me remember nap time," Olly chuckled, a sound as warm as fresh bread. "Well remembered, Benny. Memories are treasures we carry inside us, sometimes quiet, sometimes loud as thunder." From the path beyond the clearing came another sound, the steady crunch of footsteps and a basket swinging in time to a cheerful hum. Mrs. Maple emerged into view, her silver-streaked hair escaping its bun in wispy curls. She wore her favorite apron, flower-smudged and dotted with daisies, and carried a basket heavy with honey rolls. "Well now," she called out, voice rich as molasses, "if this isn't a gathering fit for a feast." She set her basket down and dusted off her hands. "Stories are like dough, little ones. They rise when shared." Mia's eyes lit up as Mrs. Maple handed out warm rolls, sticky with honey and still steaming from her oven. "Thank you," Mia said between bites. Benny nibbled his roll carefully, then repeated with satisfaction, "Dough rise! Dough rise!" Mrs. Maple laughed softly and settled herself on an upturned root beside them all. She gazed up at Olly with a knowing smile. "Has our wise friend told you yet how this old oak once glowed with lanterns? Why, I remember festival nights when every branch dripped gold and laughter shook these roots loose." Mia looked up eagerly. "Did everyone really sing together?" Mrs. Maple nodded. Eyes shining with memory, she began to hum, a melody soft as moth wings fluttering in twilight. "That's it," Mia breathed. Mrs. Maple sang a line. "Under branches old and wide, dreams and sorrows come to hide." Her voice quivered just a little at the end. Benny swayed gently to the tune, mumbling along, "Hide, hide." Olly's feathers rustled as he closed his eyes in pleasure. "That song stitched us together when times were rough," he said quietly. Before anyone could reply, another presence announced itself. A soft tap-tap-tap on the path as Mrs. Thistle approached, cane in hand and spectacles twinkling in the dimming light. "Well, if it isn't my favorite rabble-rousers," she trilled in her musical voice. Mia grinned wide and called out, "Hello, Mrs. Thistle." Mrs. Thistle winked at Mia and brandished her cane playfully at Olly. "Careful now, old bird. I've come to keep your stories honest." She lowered herself onto a mossy stone with practiced grace. "Did I hear singing?" she teased. Mrs. Maple smiled slyly. "Just enough to stir up some memories." Mrs. Thistle tapped her chin thoughtfully. "Memories are slippery things, like butter on a hot pan." She turned to Mia with an impish grin. "Tell me now, what can you hold without touching, share without speaking, lose without knowing?" Mia furrowed her brow in concentration. Benny whispered helpfully, "Nap time?" Everyone chuckled. Olly spread his wings grandly. "A secret," he suggested. Mrs. Thistle nodded approvingly. "A secret indeed, and our village is full of them, hidden under roots and tucked behind fences." Her tone softened as she looked around at their circle beneath the oak. Mia leaned closer to Mrs. Maple and asked shyly, "Why don't people come here anymore?" A hush fell over them all. Mrs. Maple sighed and squeezed Mia's hand gently. "Sometimes hearts get bruised, like apples dropped on hard ground," she said quietly. "Old hurts linger longer than we'd like." Olly nodded solemnly from above. "Some stories faded when folks forgot how much they needed each other." Mrs. Thistle gave Olly a sideways glance but smiled anyway. "But nothing is truly lost if someone remembers, even if it's only in dreams or songs." Mia looked from one face to another, her friends old and new, and felt something bright flicker inside her chest. "I'll remember," she promised fiercely. "I'll find all the stories again, and maybe everyone will come back." Benny nodded enthusiastically, mouth sticky with honey roll crumbs. "Come back! Come back!" Mrs. Maple brushed a crumb from Benny's cheek and sang another line of the lullaby, this time inviting Mia to join. "Lanterns swinging through the night bring us hope and gentle light." Mrs. Thistle hummed along softly. Olly added a low harmony from above. The clearing filled with warmth, a patchwork of voices stitched together by memory and hope. As twilight deepened into velvet night, Mia nestled against the oak's root with Benny at her side and Mrs. Maple's arm around her shoulders. Olly looked down at them all, their faces glowing in lantern-light memory, and blinked away something suspiciously like a tear. The lullaby drifted upward on the breeze, an echo of what once was and what might be again. And as Mia closed her eyes beneath the ancient oak, she whispered into the dusk, "I promise, I'll bring everyone back." Above her, Olly whispered back, "We'll wait for you, little one." The song carried on into night, a thread of hope winding through roots and branches, promising that stories lost could always be found anew under the ancient oak. Chapter 2, Gathering Voices, Saving Stories, Saving Home. The next evening, dusk arrived with hurried steps. The sky, usually slow to soften into lavender and gold, seemed to tumble toward night as if anxious for the day's business to be done. Mia's heart pounded as she raced along the path, her curls bouncing wildly. She clutched her newest treasure, a faded blue button she'd found by Mrs. Maple's fence. But tonight, it brought her little comfort. Word had spread through the village like a chill. The ancient oak was marked for removal. The news was whispered at doorways, muttered over garden fences, and carried on the wind by birds and bees alike. Some said a new road was coming, others that more cottages must be built. All Mia could think of was Olly's home and the promise she'd made beneath those broad branches. She burst into the clearing, breathless, just as the sun slipped behind the hills. The oak stood there, silent and immense, its bark glowing faintly in the fading light. Olly perched on his usual branch, but his feathers looked dull and his wings drooped as if weighed down by sorrow. "Olly!" Mia called softly, afraid even her voice might bruise the quiet. He turned his head slowly, eyes shadowed. "Evening, dear Mia." She scrambled onto her favorite root and pressed the blue button into his view. "I brought you something." Her voice trembled. "Did you hear? About the tree?" Olly nodded, slow and heavy. "Bad news travels fast, like crows on a storm wind." He tried to smile, but it came out crooked. "They say the roots are in the way, that progress needs space." Mia's cheeks flushed with worry. "But where will you go? Where will we go? If they cut down the oak?" Her words tangled up and stuck in her throat. Olly let out a long sigh, the sound rustling through the leaves above. A home is more than hollow wood and feathered nests. It's stories shared, memories rooted deep. If this tree falls, I fear what else we might lose. Mia stared up into the branches, blinking hard against tears. "We have to do something. We can't let them just take it away." Olly looked at her for a long moment, owl eyes ancient and bright with hope's last flicker. "Then we must remind them what they've forgotten, why this oak matters at all." A soft shuffling noise came from the bracken. Benny Bear emerged, scarf askew, paws twisting nervously together. "Tree stay?" he asked, voice small and anxious. "Tree stay?" Mia hopped down and hugged him tight. "We're going to try, Benny. We're going to save it." Benny nodded eagerly, repeating, "Save tree, save tree." Olly fluttered down to a lower branch so he could speak more closely to them both. "If we want to change hearts," he said gently, "we need more than wishes. We need voices, stories, to remind everyone what this place means." Mia squared her shoulders, determination burning bright behind her eyes. "Let's start with Mrs. Maple," she said. "She always knows how to make people listen." Benny's ears perked up at the mention of honey rolls. "Maple! Bread!" Olly managed a soft chuckle. "Off we go then, before all the good crusts are gone." The bakery was warm and alive with golden light spilling from every window pane. Flour dust danced in sunbeams as Mrs. Maple kneaded dough at her broad wooden table, humming softly to herself. Mia pushed open the door, bell tinkling overhead. Benny followed close behind, scarf trailing flowery paw prints across the floor. Mrs. Maple looked up, eyes crinkling with welcome and concern. "Well now, if it isn't my two favorite crumb catchers." She dusted her hands on her apron and beckoned them closer. "What brings you running before supper?" Mia hesitated only a moment before blurting out, "It's the oak tree. They want to cut it down, to build new houses or a road or something." Benny echoed anxiously, "Tree stay? Tree stay." Mrs. Maple's face softened with understanding and a touch of sadness. She pulled 2 stools close to the table and ladled out mugs of warm tea for them both. "Worries are like burnt crusts," she said as she poured, her voice soothing and wise. "Best scraped off so you can taste what's good inside." She set a fresh loaf before them, steam curling up like an invitation. "But sometimes," Mia pressed on, voice trembling around the edges, "what's good is hiding way down deep." Mrs. Maple nodded slowly as she sat beside them. "This old village has seen many changes, some sweet as cinnamon sugar, some bitter as overbaked rye." She glanced toward the window where twilight pressed against glass. "But that oak, well, bread shared under its leaves always tasted sweeter." Olly swooped in through an open window and landed atop a shelf of spice jars, feathers ruffling in the warm air. "We want to show everyone why it matters," Mia explained earnestly. "Why we need to keep it standing." Mrs. Maple tapped her chin thoughtfully with one flowery finger. "Stories are like yeast. They help hearts rise when times are heavy." She smiled at Olly and Benny in turn. "Maybe it's time we remind folks how much they've shared beneath those branches." Benny nodded vigorously, cheeks full of bread. "Share, share." Mrs. Maple squeezed Mia's hand gently. "I'll help however I can," she promised. I'll tell my best stories and invite others to remember theirs too. Relief bubbled up inside Mia like dough set to rise. Thank you, she breathed. Mrs. Maple winked. Now finish your tea before it gets cold. No hero ever saved a tree on an empty stomach. The sun had nearly vanished by the time they reached Mrs. Thistle's cottage at the edge of town. A riot of color nestled behind a crooked gate wreathed in climbing roses and wild thyme. Mia knocked gently on the door while Benny bounced from foot to foot beside her. Mrs. Thistle answered with a flourish of her cane and an impish grin. Her spectacles sparkled in the lamplight. Well, if it isn't my favorite detectives, she sang out in her musical lilt. Come seeking clues or just after my blackberry jam? We need your help, Mia said quickly, urgency lending her courage. Olly landed on a nearby trellis with a soft hoot. Mrs. Thistle raised an eyebrow, inviting explanation. They want to cut down the ancient oak, Mia blurted out. We need everyone to remember what it means, to share stories and sing again under its branches. Mrs. Thistle pursed her lips thoughtfully and tapped her cane on a flagstone 3 times. What is rooted yet reaches skyward? She asked in riddle song. Benny considered this gravely before whispering, Tree? Mrs. Thistle laughed, a clear, bright sound that made even Olly fluff his feathers in delight. Clever cub, but listen well. What holds secrets in its rings? She continued. Mia thought hard before answering. Memories? Mrs. Thistle nodded approvingly and beckoned them around back through a tangled archway of honeysuckle. Behind her cottage lay a hidden garden, tucked away from careless eyes, a place blooming wild with forget-me-nots, foxglove, and moonflowers that shimmered silver in the growing dark. My grandmother planted this garden, Mrs. Thistle said softly as she led them between beds of blossoms fragrant with evening dew. Her dreams linger here, just as our stories linger beneath that oak. She knelt carefully among the flowers and pressed Mia's hand into cool earth beside a cluster of violets. Roots run deep, she murmured, voice gentle now. They hold us together, even when petals fall. Mia felt something settle in her chest, calm and fierce all at once. We won't let them take it, she promised quietly. Mrs. Thistle straightened with effort but smiled wide as dawn. Then let us gather every voice. Let memories bloom again where all can see. Night crept softly over the clearing as lanterns flickered to life along winding paths. The first time in years such light had gathered beneath the ancient oak's boughs. Villagers trickled in one by one. Old Mr. Finn with his battered hat, shy Miss Lark carrying a basket of apples, children clutching their parents' hands. Even stoic Mr. Pine from the council arrived, arms folded but eyes curious beneath his thick brows. Mia stood tall beside Olly on their familiar route, while Benny fidgeted nervously nearby. Scarf straightened just so. Mrs. Maple bustled about with platters of bread and pots of honey butter. Mrs. Thistle hummed snatches of an old tune as she arranged wildflowers along the roots. When all had gathered, a hush fell over them like soft moss underfoot. Mr. Pine cleared his throat first. We need space for new homes, he began gruffly, though not unkindly. The council says this is progress. Old Mr. Finn shook his head slowly. I met my sweetheart under these branches, he said wistfully. Shared my first kiss right there, where the moss grows thickest. Miss Lark added shyly. My gran used to tell stories here every midsummer night. Another villager piped up. But we can't live in memories forever. We need places for our children. Tension rose, not sharp or angry, but gentle as waves lapping at pebbles. Nostalgia tugged one way, practicality another. Mia squeezed Olly's wing for courage and stepped forward so all could see her small face shining in lantern light. If we lose the tree, she said quietly but clearly, where will our stories go? Where will we remember who we are? Benny echoed uncertainly. Stories go? Olly spoke next, his voice low and warm as hearth embers banked against winter chill. This oak has sheltered us through storms and celebrations alike, he reminded them gently. Its roots are twined with our own, each ring holding laughter and loss alike. Mrs. Maple lifted her basket high so all could see. Bread shared under these leaves always tasted sweeter, because it was shared with neighbors. She smiled at Benny, who beamed back delightedly. Mrs. Thistle tapped her cane 3 times before breaking into song. Under branches old and wide, dreams and sorrows come to hide. Her voice quavered at first, but then Mrs. Maple joined in strong and sure. Olly added his low harmony. Benny hummed along hopefully. Soon even hesitant villagers lent their voices, first uncertain, then swelling bold as hope itself. The lullaby rose through dusk and filled every corner of the clearing, the echo of what once was blooming anew. As song faded into gentle laughter and soft conversation, Mr. Pine cleared his throat again, but this time his voice was softer. "I suppose losing such a place would be losing more than wood or shade," he admitted quietly. Old Mr. Finn nodded firmly. Miss Lark wiped away happy tears. Children danced among roots as parents smiled fondly after them. One by one, sometimes gruffly, sometimes shy, the villagers agreed the oak would remain. Its roots would hold not only earth but memory. Its branches would shelter not only leaves but dreams yet to come. Later that night, with celebration loaves cooling on Mrs. Maple's windowsill and Mrs. Thistle humming contentedly beside Benny curled up among wildflowers, Mia nestled against her favorite root beneath the ancient oak. Above her,